This song is for my sick mommy, the little girl sang, unaware that her millionaire father was right there in the audience. She stood under the stage lights in a dress 2 sizes too big, gripping a microphone like a lifeline, and said the words that would shatter a man she didn't even know was watching. This song is for my sick mommy. Hi there. Thank you for stopping by to listen to this wonderful story today. While you relax and ready to enjoy the story, please hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and make sure you share this story to your loved ones. Now let's get started. The morning came too early in the cottage on Roslyn Lane. Lucia Raines woke to the sound of wind chimes singing outside her window, a gentle, metallic lullaby that had become as familiar as her own heartbeat. She blinked at the glow-in-the-dark stars her mother had painted on the ceiling 3 years ago, back when her hands were steady and her laughter came easy. Now, those stars were fading. Lulu slipped out of bed, her bare feet silent on the worn wooden floor. She tiptoed down the narrow hallway, past the paintings stacked against the walls, unfinished landscapes and portraits her mother no longer had the strength to complete. The smell of lavender and something medicinal lingered in the air. She stopped at the door to her mother's room. It was cracked open, just enough for a sliver of gray morning light to spill through. Lulu peeked inside. Iris was asleep, her body frail beneath a patchwork quilt, her breathing shallow but rhythmic. Her once vibrant auburn hair had thinned, tied back in a loose braid that lay across her pillow like a fading brushstroke. Lulu stepped inside, her small hand curling around the doorframe. "Mommy," she whispered. Iris stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, and for a moment there was confusion, then recognition, then warmth. "Morning, my little songbird," Iris said, her voice raspy but soft. Lulu climbed onto the bed, careful not to jostle her mother. She tucked herself into the crook of Iris's arm, fitting perfectly like she always had. "I didn't wake you, did I?" Lulu asked. "No, baby. I was just resting my eyes." Lulu knew that wasn't true. Her mother was always tired now. But she didn't argue. "Today's the talent show," Lulu said quietly. Iris smiled, though it took effort. "I know. I wish I could be there." "It's okay. Mara's gonna record it for you." "That's not the same." Lulu tilted her head up to look at her mother's face. "But you'll still hear it, right? Even if you're here?" Iris's eyes glistened. She ran a hand through Lulu's dark curls. "I'll hear every word, sweetheart. I always do." Lulu smiled and began to hum, a melody she'd been practicing for weeks. It was an old song, one Iris used to sing to her when she was a baby. But Lulu had changed the words. She'd made it her own. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." Iris closed her eyes and listened. And for a moment, the sickness didn't exist. There was only this, a mother and daughter, a song and love that refused to dim. 300 miles away, in a glass tower that kissed the clouds over Seattle, Donovan Raines sat in silence. His office was a monument to success. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a painting. The desk was black marble, cold and spotless. Awards lined the shelves. Entrepreneur of the Year, Tech Innovator, 40 under 40. His name was everywhere. But the room felt like a tomb. Donovan leaned back in his leather chair, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the skyline. He hadn't slept. Again. The bags under his eyes had become permanent, and his assistant Sienna had stopped asking if he was okay. He wasn't. On his desk, half hidden beneath a stack of contracts, was a photograph. It was old, creased at the edges, faded from years of being touched and then hidden away in shame. In it, a younger version of himself stood beside a woman with auburn hair and paint-stained hands. She was laughing, her head thrown back, her hand resting on a swollen belly. Iris. He hadn't seen her in 3 years, hadn't spoken to her in longer. The door to his office opened without a knock. Sienna Frost strode in, tablet in hand, her expression all business. "Morning briefing," she said curtly. "You have a 10 o'clock with the board, a lunch meeting with the Denver investors, and a 4 o'clock call with Tokyo. Also, your keynote speech for the summit next week still needs revisions." Donovan didn't respond. He was staring at the photograph. Sienna followed his gaze. Her expression softened, just slightly. "You're thinking about her again," she said. It wasn't a question. Donovan slid the photo back under the contracts. "I'm fine. You're not. Sienna, you've been carrying that flyer in your jacket pocket for 2 weeks, Donovan. I've seen it." His jaw tightened. He said nothing. Sienna set the tablet down and crossed her arms. "If you're going to go, just go. Stop torturing yourself." "I'm not going." "Then throw the flyer away." He couldn't. Sienna sighed. "She's 7 now, isn't she?" Donovan's throat tightened. He nodded once. "And you've never met her." "I've seen pictures. That's not the same." "I know that." His voice cracked, louder than he meant it to be. He exhaled, ran a hand through his hair. "I know that." Sienna softened. "Then what are you afraid of?" He didn't answer, because the truth was too heavy to say out loud. "I'm afraid she'll look at me and see nothing. I'm afraid Iris will tell her I'm not worth knowing. I'm afraid I'll prove them both right." Sienna picked up her tablet. "The car's downstairs if you need it. I'll cover your meetings." "Sienna, go, Donovan." She left without waiting for a reply. Donovan sat alone in his glass tower, surrounded by everything he'd built, and none of it mattered. He pulled the flyer from his jacket pocket. It was wrinkled, the ink smudged from being folded and unfolded too many times. Graywood Community Talent Show. Ember Hall, 7 p.m. All ages welcome. At the bottom, someone had written in pencil, "Lucia Raines, age 7, vocal performance." He stared at the name. Lucia, his daughter. He stood, grabbed his coat, and walked out. Have you ever wanted to go back and fix something you walked away from, but didn't know if you'd be welcome? Drop a comment and tell us what you'd do if you were Donovan. The Ember Hall Community Center had seen better days. The building was old brick and peeling paint, tucked between a thrift store and a family-owned diner on the edge of Graywood's modest downtown. Inside, the theater smelled like dust and decades of school plays, Christmas pageants, and amateur poetry readings. The seats were mismatched, some velvet, some plastic, all of them creaking under the weight of parents, grandparents, and neighbors who'd come to cheer on their kids. The stage was small, lit by overhead lights that flickered occasionally. A handmade banner hung crooked above the curtain. Graywood's Got Talent. It wasn't glamorous, but it was packed. Donovan Raines slipped through the back entrance, just as the lights dimmed for the start of the show. He kept his head down, the hood of his jacket pulled low over his face. He found a seat in the last row, tucked into the corner shadows where no one would notice him. He told himself he'd only stay for a few minutes. Just long enough to see her. Just long enough to know she was real. On stage, Mr. Calloway Finch, a broad-shouldered man in his 60s with a voice like warm honey, stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening, Graywood," he boomed. The crowd erupted in applause. "Welcome, welcome. We've got an incredible lineup tonight. Our kids have been working so hard, and I know you're gonna love what they've prepared. So let's get started." The first act was a pair of twin boys performing a magic trick that went slightly wrong. The crowd laughed and clapped anyway. Then came a girl doing a baton routine, a boy playing violin, and a group of teenagers performing a hip-hop dance that brought the house down. Donovan barely registered any of it. His heart was pounding. His palms were damp. He kept his eyes on the stage, but his mind was racing. What am I doing here? She doesn't know me. I have no right to. And now, Mr. Finch's voice cut through his thoughts, we have a very special young lady. She's 7 years old, and she's got a voice that'll knock your socks off. Please welcome to the stage, Lucia Raines. Donovan's breath caught. The applause swelled. And then, she walked out. Small. So impossibly small. Wearing a yellow dress that was a little too big, the hem brushing the tops of her scuffed white sneakers. Her dark curls were pulled back with a sunflower clip. Her hands were clasped in front of her, fingers twisting nervously. She looked terrified, but she walked to the center of the stage, and when Mr. Finch handed her the microphone, she took it with both hands like it was something precious. The crowd quieted. Lucia looked out into the sea of faces. Somewhere in the third row, Mara Quillen sat with her phone raised, recording. She gave Lulu a thumbs up. Lulu's lips curved into a tiny, trembling smile. Then she spoke. Her voice was small, but it carried. Hi, my name is Lucia, but everyone calls me Lulu. A few people in the crowd murmured soft hellos. She swallowed, glanced down at her feet, then back up. This song is for my sick mommy. The room went completely still. She can't be here tonight, but I know she's listening. Donovan's chest tightened. His throat burned. Lucia closed her eyes, took a breath, and began to sing. The opening notes were shaky. Her voice wavered on the first line. But then, something shifted. She found her footing. The melody steadied. And her voice, God, her voice. It was pure. She was singing You Are My Sunshine, but not the version everyone knew. She'd changed it. The verses were her own. You are my sunshine, my morning light. You paint the stars that shine at night. You hold me close when I'm afraid. You make the shadows go away. Donovan's hands gripped the armrests of his seat. His knuckles went white. You taught me colors. You taught me songs. You showed me how to be strong. Even when you're tired, even when you're weak, you still smile at me. A tear slipped down his cheek. Then another. So I'll sing for you when you can't stand. I'll hold your heart in my little hands. You are my sunshine. You'll always be the best part of me. The audience was silent. Some were crying. Others sat frozen, hands pressed to their mouths. Lucia's eyes were still closed. She was somewhere else now. Not on stage, not performing. She was singing to her mother. Only her mother. And Donovan, sitting in the dark, alone, invisible, felt his entire world collapse. This is my daughter. I left her. I left them both. The song built to its final chorus. Lucia's voice soared, clear and unbroken, and when she sang the last line, You are my sunshine, always, her voice cracked, just slightly on the word always. It was the most honest sound Donovan had ever heard. The final note hung in the air. Silence. Then, the room exploded. The crowd leapt to their feet, clapping, cheering, some openly weeping. Mr. Finch wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Mara was sobbing in the third row, still recording. Lucia opened her eyes, startled by the noise. She looked out at the crowd, at all these people she knew, all these neighbors and teachers and friends, and she smiled, a real, radiant smile. She bowed, a little awkwardly, and waved. Thank you, she whispered into the microphone. The applause thundered on, but Donovan didn't clap. He sat frozen, his face wet with tears, his chest heaving with something too big to name. He watched as Lucia handed the microphone back to Mr. Finch and walked off stage, her yellow dress swishing behind her. She disappeared into the wings, and the stage lights shifted for the next act. Donovan stood abruptly. He couldn't breathe. He pushed through the back door and stumbled out into the cold night air. The rain had started, light, misting, soaking into his jacket. He leaned against the brick wall, hands on his knees, gasping. She doesn't even know me, and I don't deserve her. He stayed there in the rain, alone, while inside the hall, the show went on. but all he could hear was her voice. "You are my sunshine, always." Donovan didn't go back inside. He stood in the rain for what felt like hours, though it was only minutes. His breath came in short, ragged pulls. His hands trembled. The cold didn't touch him. He was numb everywhere except the place in his chest that had cracked wide open. "She doesn't know me." She sang about her mother. "Not me. Never me." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. Sienna's name lit up the screen. He declined the call. It buzzed again. A text this time. "Sienna, did you go?" He stared at the message. His thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Then he shoved the phone back into his pocket without answering. He couldn't explain what he just felt. He couldn't put words to the way her voice had gutted him, the way her innocence had stripped him bare. All he knew was that he had no right to be here. No right to watch her. No right to feel anything. "You walked away, Donovan. You chose this." He turned and walked toward his car, parked 2 blocks away in the shadows where no one would see the Tesla with Seattle plates. He climbed inside, gripped the steering wheel, and sat in silence. The rain drummed against the windshield. He thought about driving back to Seattle, pretending tonight never happened, burying it like he'd buried everything else. But he couldn't move, because her voice was still in his head. "You are my sunshine, always." Inside Ember Hall, the talent show continued. Backstage, Lucia sat on a folding chair, swinging her legs, her yellow dress still slightly damp from nervous sweat. Other kids buzzed around her, congratulating her, asking how she wasn't scared, telling her she should be on TV. But Lulu wasn't listening. She was staring at the back door of the theater, the one that led out to the alley. Something felt off, like someone had been watching her, really watching her, not just clapping politely like the rest of the crowd. She couldn't explain it. "Lulu!" She turned. Mara Quillen was walking toward her, phone still in hand, her eyes red-rimmed but smiling. "Baby, you were incredible," Mara said, crouching down to eye level. "Your mama is going to cry when she sees this video." "I'm talking ugly cry." Lulu smiled a little. "You think so?" "I know so." "Did I mess up the 3rd verse?" "Not even a little." Lulu looked down at her hands. "I felt like someone was really listening. Like more than normal." Mara tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. It's dumb." "It's not dumb." Lulu shrugged. "It just felt like someone who needed to hear it was there." Mara's smile faltered, just for a second. She brushed a curl out of Lulu's face. "Maybe they were, baby. Maybe they were." By the time the talent show ended, it was almost 9 o'clock. Parents filtered out into the parking lot, kids buzzing with sugar and adrenaline. Mara led Lulu to her old Subaru, buckled her into the back seat, and handed her a granola bar. "Eat." "You didn't have dinner." Lulu nibbled on it quietly, staring out the window as Mara pulled out of the lot. "Can we go see Mommy?" Lulu asked. Mara hesitated. "She's probably asleep, hon." "I know. I want to tell her about tonight, even if she can't hear me." Mara's throat tightened. "Okay. We'll stop by for a few minutes." They drove through the quiet streets of Graywood, past the shuttered shops and blinking streetlights. When they pulled up to the cottage on Roslyn Lane, the porch light was still on, a soft, golden glow against the dark. Mara unlocked the door and let Lulu inside. The house was silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the ticking of a clock on the wall. Lulu tiptoed down the hallway to her mother's room and pushed the door open gently. Iris was asleep, just as Mara predicted. But even in sleep, her face looked tired, etched with pain she tried to hide during the day. Lulu climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed and whispered, "Mommy?" Iris stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. "Lulu, I'm back." Iris smiled weakly. "How did it go?" I didn't forget any words. That's my girl. Lulu reached out and took her mother's hand. It was cold and thin, the bones too prominent. I sang it just like we practiced, and everyone clapped really loud. I'm so proud of you, baby. Mara recorded it. You can watch it tomorrow. I can't wait. Lulu hesitated, biting her lip. Mommy, yeah. Do you think Daddy ever thinks about us? The question landed like a stone in still water. Iris's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Something old and buried. She stroked Lulu's hand with her thumb. I don't know, sweetheart. But if he did, what do you think he'd say? Iris closed her eyes. Her voice was barely a whisper. I think he'd say he's sorry. Would you believe him? Iris opened her eyes and looked at her daughter. This bright, brave little girl who had every reason to be angry and bitter, but wasn't. I don't know, Iris said honestly. But I'd want to. Lulu nodded slowly. She leaned down and kissed her mother's forehead. I love you, Mommy. I love you more. Lulu slipped off the bed and padded back out into the hallway. Mara was waiting by the door, arms crossed, her face unreadable. Come on, kiddo. Let's get you home and in bed. They left quietly, locking the door behind them. 2 miles away, in a budget motel on the edge of town, Donovan sat on the edge of a sagging mattress, his laptop open in front of him. He'd typed Iris Raines cancer into the search bar. The results came up immediately. A GoFundMe page. Community fundraiser updates. A local news article. Graywood rallies around local artist fighting stage for cancer. He clicked on the GoFundMe. There was a photo of Iris, thinner than he remembered, but still her. Still the woman he'd loved. The goal was $50,000. They'd raised $23,000. He read the updates. The treatments. The hospital visits. The friends taking shifts to help with Lulu. The meals delivered. The town coming together. And where were you? His hands hovered over the keyboard. He could donate. Anonymously. Right now. He could cover the entire amount and more. But what would that fix? Money doesn't make you a father. He closed the laptop. He lay back on the bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling. And for the first time in 3 years, Donovan Raines let himself weep. Not silent tears. Not controlled. He sobbed. For Iris. For Lulu. For the man he used to be and the man he'd become. And he didn't stop until there was nothing left. Donovan woke to sunlight slicing through the cheap motel curtains. His eyes were swollen. His head throbbed. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. Then it all came rushing back. The song. The rain. The sobbing. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face with both hands. His phone was buzzing on the nightstand. 12 missed calls. 8 texts. All from Sienna. He ignored them. Instead, he stood, splashed cold water on his face in the tiny bathroom, and stared at himself in the mirror. He looked like hell. Unshaven. Hollow-eyed. A stranger. What are you doing, Donovan? He didn't have an answer, but he knew he wasn't leaving. Not yet. At 9:30 a.m., Donovan found himself driving through Graywood again. He didn't have a plan. He told himself he was just looking, getting a sense of the place. The place his daughter lived. The place he'd never been part of. The town was small, tucked between forests and hills, the kind of place where people knew each other's names. He passed the diner where locals gathered for coffee, a hardware store with a faded awning, a bookshop with a cat sleeping in the window. And then he saw it. Roslyn Lane. His hands tightened on the wheel. He turned onto the street slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. The cottage was halfway down the block. Small, white with blue shutters. A garden in front that had seen better days. Wind chimes hanging from the porch. A child's bike leaning against the railing. He parked across the street, far enough away that he wouldn't be noticed. "What are you doing? You can't just sit here like some." The front door opened. Donovan froze. Lulu stepped out, wearing jeans and a purple hoodie, her curls pulled into a messy ponytail. Behind her, Mara followed, locking the door and pocketing the keys. "Come on, kiddo," Mara said. "We've got 20 minutes before the park fills up. Can we go on the swings?" "That's why we're going." They walked down the porch steps and headed up the sidewalk, toward the neighborhood park at the end of the street. Donovan waited until they turned the corner. Then he followed. Graywood Park was nothing fancy. A patch of grass, a rusted jungle gym, a set of swings that squeaked when they moved, and a bench beneath an old oak tree. A handful of kids were already playing, tossing a football, climbing the monkey bars. Lulu ran straight for the swings. Mara sat on the bench, pulling out her phone. 15 minutes, Lulu. Then we've got errands. Okay. Lulu pumped her legs, swinging higher and higher, her face tilted toward the sky. For a moment, she looked weightless, free. Donovan stood at the edge of the park, half hidden behind a tree watching. "You shouldn't be here." But he couldn't leave. Mara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned, then stood and walked a few paces away to take the call. "Hey, yeah. Hold on. I can barely hear you." She moved farther off, her back turned. Donovan saw his chance. Before he could talk himself out of it, he stepped onto the park grounds and walked slowly toward the swings. Lulu was slowing down now, dragging her feet in the dirt to stop. She hopped off and turned, and nearly bumped into him. She looked up, startled. Donovan's breath caught. Up close, she looked even more like Iris. The same eyes, the same stubborn little chin. "Oh, sorry," Lulu said, stepping back. "No, I'm sorry," Donovan stammered. "I didn't mean to sneak up on you." She tilted her head, studying him. "You're really tall." Despite everything, he almost smiled. "Yeah, I get that a lot." She looked at him for another moment, curious but not afraid. Then she walked to the swing beside the one she'd been on and sat down. "Do you have kids?" she asked, kicking at the dirt. Donovan hesitated. Then he walked over and sat on the swing next to hers. The metal chains creaked under his weight. Yeah," he said quietly. "I do." "How old?" His throat tightened. 7. "Same as me." Lulu grinned. "Do they go to school here?" "No. They live far away." Her smile faltered a little. "Do you miss them?" Donovan's chest ached. "Every day." Lulu nodded slowly, like she understood something she couldn't quite put into words. She started swinging again, gently this time. "I sang at a talent show last night," she said. "I know." She looked at him sharply. "You were there?" He nodded. Her eyes went wide. "Really? Really? Did you like it?" His voice cracked. "It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." Lulu blushed and looked down, smiling. "My mom couldn't come. She's sick." "I heard. I'm really sorry." "It's okay. She's strong." Lulu's voice was matter-of-fact, but her hands gripped the swing chains a little tighter. "Everyone says she's gonna get better." Donovan didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. "What's your name?" Lulu asked. He swallowed. "Dawn." "I'm Lulu." "I know." She laughed. "How?" "I heard someone say it last night." "Oh." They swung in silence for a moment. The chains squeaked. Birds chirped in the oak tree above them. "Dawn." "Yeah." "Do you think, if someone leaves you, do you think they ever think about coming back?" Donovan's heart stopped. He turned to look at her. She wasn't looking at him. She was staring at her shoes, swinging slowly. "I think," he said carefully, his voice shaking, "that some people leave because they're scared, and they spend every day after that wishing they'd been braver." Lulu thought about that. "My dad left." Donovan couldn't breathe. "But it's okay," she continued. Mommy says some people just don't know how to stay. She's right. But if he came back, I think I'd want to know why. Why what? She finally looked at him. Her eyes were clear, honest, and full of something he didn't deserve. Why it took him so long. Donovan opened his mouth, but no words came. Mara's voice cut through the moment like a blade. Lulu! They both turned. Mara was walking toward them, her phone in her hand, her eyes locked on Donovan. Her expression shifted from confusion to suspicion in half a second. Time to go, Mara said firmly. Lulu hopped off the swing. Okay, bye, Don. She waved and ran toward Mara. Mara didn't move. She stood there, staring at Donovan, her jaw tight. He stood slowly, his hands raised slightly. I wasn't. Stay away from her, Mara said, her voice low and cold. Then she took Lulu's hand and walked away. Donovan stood alone by the swings, his heart pounding. Why it took him so long? Her words echoed in his head, and for the first time, he didn't have an answer that made him feel anything but ashamed. If someone you loved left you behind, would you want them to come back? Even if it was years later? Or is some damage too deep to heal? Let us know what you think in the comments. Mara didn't say a word the entire drive home. Lulu sat in the back seat, swinging her legs, humming softly to herself. She didn't notice the way Mara's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. She didn't see the way Mara kept glancing in the rearview mirror, her jaw clenched tight. When they pulled into the driveway of the cottage, Mara turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, staring straight ahead. Lulu! Yeah, that man at the park. Do you know him? Lulu looked up confused. Don? No, I just met him. Has he talked to you before? No, just today. Lulu tilted her head. Why? Is something wrong? Mara forced a smile. No, baby. Just be careful about talking to strangers, okay? He wasn't scary. He was nice. I know. Just promise me. Okay. Mara exhaled slowly. Go on inside. I'll be there in a minute. Lulu unbuckled herself and hopped out, skipping up the porch steps and disappearing inside. Mara pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking. She scrolled through her photos, old ones from years ago, until she found it. A picture Iris had shown her once, late at night after too much wine and too many tears. It was a photo of a man, younger, clean-cut, standing beside Iris at some tech conference, both of them smiling, his arm around her waist, her hand on her belly. Mara zoomed in on his face. Then she looked back toward the park, where the man had been sitting on the swing beside Lulu. No, she whispered. No, no, no. It was him, Donovan Raines. Inside the cottage, Lulu tiptoed into her mother's room. Iris was awake, propped up on pillows, a sketch pad resting on her lap. She was drawing something, slowly, carefully, her hand trembling slightly with each line. Hey, Mommy. Iris looked up and smiled. Hey, Songbird. How was the park? Good. I went on the swings. Lulu climbed onto the bed. I met someone. Iris raised an eyebrow. Oh. His name's Don. He was really tall. And he said he heard me sing last night. Iris's smile faltered, just a little. That's nice. He said it was the most beautiful thing he ever heard. Iris set down her pencil. Did he? Lulu nodded. He has a kid my age, but they live far away. He misses them. Something flickered across Iris's face. Something deep and painful. She reached out and tucked a curl behind Lulu's ear. You've got a big heart, baby, she said softly. But you have to be careful who you give it to. Mara said the same thing. Then Mara's smart. Lulu looked down at the sketch pad. What are you drawing? Iris turned it around. It was a portrait. Rough, unfinished, but unmistakable. It was Lulu, on stage, holding a microphone, her face lit by stage lights. "You," Iris whispered. "The way I see you." Lulu's eyes filled with tears. "It's beautiful. So are you." They sat together in silence, Lulu leaning into her mother's side, Iris's arm wrapped around her. "Mommy?" "Yeah." "If Daddy came back, would you let him stay?" Iris went very still. "Why are you asking that?" Lulu shrugged. "I don't know. I've been thinking about it." "About him?" Iris closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. "I don't know, Lulu," she said honestly. "I really don't know." That afternoon, while Lulu napped, Mara confronted Iris. She stood in the doorway of Iris's room, arms crossed, her face a storm. "He's here," Mara said. Iris looked up slowly. "Who?" "Don't play dumb with me, Iris." "Donovan. He's in Greywood." Iris's face went pale. "What?" "I saw him. At the park. Talking to Lulu." "What?" Iris tried to sit up, panic flooding her voice. "Is she okay? Did he?" "She's fine. She doesn't know who he is." Mara stepped into the room. "But I do. And I want to know what the hell he's doing here." Iris pressed a hand to her chest, her breathing shallow. "I don't know. I swear, Mara, I didn't." "Did you tell him about the talent show?" "No." "Then how did he know?" "I don't know." Iris's voice cracked. "Maybe someone posted it online. Maybe he... God, I don't know." Mara softened slightly. She sat on the edge of the bed. "Iris, what if he tries to see her again?" "He won't." "You don't know that." "He won't," Iris repeated, but her voice wavered. "He doesn't have the right." "Since when has that stopped him from doing whatever he wants?" Iris closed her eyes, tears spilling over. "What do you want me to do, Mara? I'm dying. I can barely get out of bed. I can't." "Stop." Mara's voice was fierce. She took Iris's hand. "You are not dying. Not yet. Not while I'm still here." Iris sobbed quietly. "I'm scared. I know. What if he takes her from me?" "He won't." "You don't know that." Mara squeezed her hand tighter. "Then we'll fight him. Together." Iris nodded, wiping her eyes. But deep down, she knew the truth. If Donovan wanted back into Lulu's life, there was nothing she could do to stop him. 2 miles away, Donovan sat in his motel room, laptop open again. But this time, he wasn't searching for Iris. He was watching the video. Someone had uploaded Lulu's performance to YouTube. It had already been viewed over 3,000 times. The comments were flooded with heart emojis and messages like, "This made me cry," and "What an angel." Donovan watched it again, and again, and again. Each time, he heard something new. A crack in her voice, a breath she took before the chorus. The way she said "sick mommy" with such gentle certainty, like she'd already accepted what the adults around her were trying to deny. He paused the video on her face, mid-song, eyes closed, lost in the music. She looked so much like Iris. But she had his nose, his stubborn chin. "She's mine." The thought hit him like a fist. "She's mine, and I abandoned her." His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Unknown. Stay away from my daughter." His heart stopped. "Unknown. I mean it, Donovan. You lost the right to know her the day you walked out. Don't make this harder than it already is." It was Iris. He stared at the screen, his hands shaking. Then slowly, he typed a reply. "Donovan, I know I don't deserve her. I know I don't deserve you. But I can't leave. Not again. Please." He hit send. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, the reply came. "Iris, then prove it." Donovan closed his eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than regret. He felt purpose. "Prove it." The words haunted Donovan for 2 days. He didn't approach the cottage. He didn't go back to the park. He stayed in his motel room, pacing, thinking, trying to figure out what proving it even meant. He couldn't just throw money at the problem. He'd already learned that lesson. Money built empires, but it didn't build trust. It didn't heal wounds. It didn't make you a father. So what could he do? The answer came on the third morning, when he walked past a small music shop on Main Street. In the window was a microphone, professional grade, the kind real singers used. It sat on a stand under a spotlight, gleaming like something out of a dream. Donovan stopped. He stared at it for a long moment. Then he went inside. That afternoon, Lulu was back at the park. This time, Mara wasn't with her. Ms. Viv Harrow, her music teacher, had offered to take her for an hour while Mara ran to the pharmacy. Ms. Harrow sat on the bench, grading sheet music, while Lulu played on the monkey bars. Donovan approached cautiously, carrying a small bag. Ms. Harrow noticed him first. She looked up, her expression neutral but watchful. "Afternoon," Donovan said politely. "Afternoon." Lulu turned at the sound of his voice. Her face lit up. "Don?" She scrambled down from the bars and ran over, breathless and grinning. "You came back." Donovan's chest tightened. "Yeah, I wanted to give you something." Her eyes went wide. "For me?" He nodded and pulled the microphone out of the bag. It was sleek, black, with a foam cover and a coiled cable. Professional, but not flashy. Lulu gasped. "Is that?" "It's a real microphone," Donovan said. "For singers. I thought maybe you could use it. For practice. Or your next performance." She stared at it like it was made of starlight. "I can't. This is too much." "It's not," Donovan said quickly. "You've got a gift, Lulu. A real one. And gifts like that deserve the right tools." Lulu looked up at him, her eyes shining. "Thank you." "You're welcome." Ms. Harrow stood and walked over, arms crossed but not unkind. "That's very generous of you, Mr. Raines. Don Raines." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. She glanced at Lulu, then back at him. "Well, Mr. Raines, that's a lovely gesture. I'm sure Lucia will put it to good use." "I hope so." Ms. Harrow gave him a long, measuring look, then nodded and returned to the bench. Lulu clutched the microphone like it was the most precious thing she'd ever held. "Will you stay?" she asked. "Just for a little bit?" Donovan hesitated. He glanced at Ms. Harrow, who gave a small, almost imperceptible nod of permission. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'll stay." They walked over to the swings. Lulu set the microphone carefully on the ground beside her and climbed onto the swing. Donovan sat beside her, just like before. For a while, they didn't talk. They just swung, gently, side by side. Then Lulu said, "Do you want to hear the song I'm working on?" "You're writing another one?" She nodded. "Ms. Harrow's helping me. It's about saying goodbye." Donovan's throat closed up. "To your mom." Lulu's voice was small. Just in case. He didn't trust himself to speak. So he just nodded. Lulu started to sing. Her voice was quiet at first, almost a whisper. But it grew stronger as she went. "When the morning comes and you're not there, I'll look for you in the empty air. I'll sing your name. I'll hold it close. You're the one I'll miss the most." Donovan closed his eyes. "But I won't be scared. I won't be sad. I'll remember all the love we had. You taught me how to stand, how to be strong. Even when you're gone, I'll sing your song." A tear slid down his cheek. When she finished, the park was silent except for the creak of the swings. "That's beautiful," Donovan whispered. "You think so?" "I know so." Lulu smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "I don't want to sing it. Not really. I don't want to say goodbye. I know, But Ms. Harrow says sometimes we have to practice being brave before we have to actually be brave. Donovan looked at her, this small, impossibly strong little girl, and felt his heart shatter all over again. "You're already the bravest person I know," he said. Lulu looked at him, really looked at him. "Do you think your kid is brave?" He swallowed hard. "I think she's the bravest person in the world." "Then why don't you go see her?" Donovan's breath hitched. "It's complicated. Grown-ups always say that." "I know, but I think," Lulu said slowly, "that if you miss someone, you should tell them. Because what if you don't get another chance?" Her words cut straight through him. "You're right," he whispered. She tilted her head. "So will you?" "Will I what?" "Tell her that you miss her." Donovan looked into her eyes, Iris's eyes, his eyes, and felt something break open inside him. "Yeah," he said, his voice shaking. "I will." Lulu smiled. A real, bright, beautiful smile. "Good." They swung together in silence, the chains squeaking softly, the late afternoon sun filtering through the trees. And for just a moment, Donovan let himself imagine what it might feel like to be her father. Not the man who left, not the man who failed, just her dad. When Ms. Harrow finally called Lulu over, saying it was time to go, Lulu hopped off the swing and picked up her new microphone. "Thank you again, Don," she said. "Anytime." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Hey, Don." "Yeah, I'm really glad you came to my show." His voice cracked. "Me too, Lulu." She waved and ran off toward Ms. Harrow. Donovan sat alone on the swing, watching her go. And he made a decision. He wasn't going to run anymore. That night, Donovan sat in his motel room and opened his laptop. He pulled up a blank email addressed to Sienna. Subject: indefinite leave. "I'm not coming back. Not yet. Maybe not for a while. I need you to handle things without me. I trust you. You've always been better at this than I have anyway. There's something I need to fix. Something I should have fixed a long time ago. I'll explain later. Maybe." He hit send. Then he closed the laptop, lay back on the bed, and let himself breathe. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't running. He was staying. It was bound to happen eventually. Mara had been watching, waiting. Every time Lulu came home talking about Don, every time she mentioned the nice man at the park who listened to her songs, Mara's suspicion grew into certainty, and certainty grew into rage. She'd kept quiet for Iris's sake, for Lulu's sake. But when she saw him again, sitting on that same swing, talking to Lulu like he had every right in the world, something inside her snapped. It was a Thursday afternoon. Lulu had convinced Mara to take her to the park one more time before dinner. The sky was heavy with clouds, the air thick and damp. A storm was coming. Lulu ran ahead toward the swings, her new microphone tucked carefully in her backpack. And there he was, Donovan Raines, sitting on the bench beneath the oak tree, waiting. Mara's vision went red. "Lulu, stay by the swings," she said sharply. Lulu stopped, confused. "But, stay there." Mara marched across the park, her boots thudding against the grass. Donovan saw her coming and stood, his hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. "Mara, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Her voice was low, venomous. "I just wanted to." "To what? Play dad for a week, and then disappear again? Make yourself feel better about abandoning them?" Donovan flinched. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Donovan?" "Because from where I'm standing, you're a coward who couldn't handle real life, so you ran. And now you're back because you're bored? Guilty? Curious? I'm back because I had to be. You didn't have to do anything. You chose to leave. You chose your company over your family. You chose money over your daughter. I know that." His voice cracked. "I know what I did. Then why are you here? What do you want? I want. He stopped, his voice breaking. I want to be her father. Mara laughed bitterly. You think it's that easy? You think you can just show up and everything's fine? No, I know it's not. Do you know what Iris went through after you left? Do you have any idea? Donovan's jaw tightened. He said nothing. She cried every night for months, Mara continued, her voice shaking. She stopped painting, stopped eating. I had to beg her to get out of bed. And then she got pregnant, and she had to pull herself together. Not for her, but for that little girl over there. She pointed toward Lulu, who was watching nervously from the swings. And when Lulu was born, Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. Iris held her and cried because all she could see was you, and she hated herself for still loving the man who destroyed her. Donovan's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. That's not fair. Fair? Mara stepped closer, her voice rising. You want to talk about fair? That little girl has spent her whole life wondering why her daddy didn't love her enough to stay. And now you show up with a microphone and a smile like that's supposed to fix 7 years of absence. I'm trying. Trying isn't enough. Mara's voice cracked. Iris is dying, Donovan. Do you understand that? She has maybe 6 months, maybe less. And that little girl is about to lose the only parent she's ever known. So forgive me if I don't trust you to stick around when things get hard. The words hung in the air like a guillotine. Donovan's face crumpled. I'm not leaving. You already did. Mara, please. No. She shook her head. You don't get to do this. You don't get to waltz back into their lives and pretend you're some kind of hero. You're not. You're just a man who's finally feeling the weight of what he threw away. Donovan opened his mouth to respond, but a small voice cut through the tension. Mara? They both turned. Lulu was standing a few feet away, her face pale, her eyes wide and confused. Why are you yelling at Don? Mara's heart sank. Lulu, go back to the swings. No! Lulu's voice was small but firm. Why are you being mean to him? I'm not. You are. Tears filled Lulu's eyes. He's been nice to me. He gave me a microphone. He listened to my songs. Why are you mad at him? Mara looked at Donovan. His face was pale, stricken. Lulu, Mara said gently. There are things you don't understand. Then tell me. Lulu's voice broke. Stop treating me like a baby. I know Mommy's sick. I know she might not get better. I'm not stupid. Mara knelt down. Sweetheart. And I know my dad left. Lulu continued, her voice shaking. I know he didn't want us. But Don is nice. He makes me feel like someone cares. So why are you trying to make him leave too? Mara's throat closed. Donovan took a step forward. Lulu, don't. Mara stood and held up a hand. She looked at Donovan, her eyes full of fury and pain. Tell her, right now, or I will. Donovan's face went white. Mara, please, tell her who you are. Lulu looked between them, confusion turning to fear. What's she talking about? Donovan's hands were shaking. His breath came in short, shallow bursts. Lulu, he whispered. He's your father, Mara said. The world stopped. Lulu stared at Donovan. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Lulu, Donovan's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you. You're my dad. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Lulu's expression twisted. Confusion, betrayal, hurt, all crashing together at once. You lied to me? I didn't. You let me talk about him, about you, and you didn't say anything? I was scared. I trusted you. Her voice broke into a sob. I thought you were my friend. I am. No, you're not. She stepped back, shaking her head. You're just like Mara said. You're a liar. And I hate you. The words hit him like bullets. Lulu turned and ran. "Lulu, wait!" Mara called, chasing after her. Donovan stood frozen, his chest heaving, his world collapsing. He'd finally told her the truth, and she hated him for it. Thunder rumbled overhead. The first drops of rain began to fall. Donovan sank onto the bench, buried his face in his hands, and broke. The rain came down in sheets. Donovan sat on that bench long after Mara and Lulu had gone. He didn't move, didn't seek shelter. He let the rain soak through his jacket, his shirt, his skin. Let it wash over him like some kind of penance he didn't deserve but couldn't refuse. "I hate you." Her voice echoed in his head over and over, a loop he couldn't escape. He'd finally told her the truth, and it had destroyed her. Maybe Mara was right. Maybe I should have just stayed away. But even as he thought it, he knew he couldn't leave. Not now. Not after seeing her face. Not after hearing her voice break. He stood slowly, water dripping from his hair, and walked back to his car. He didn't go back to the motel. He drove to the cottage on Roslyn Lane. Inside, the house was dim and quiet. Lulu had locked herself in her room the moment they got home. Mara had tried to talk to her through the door, but Lulu wouldn't answer, wouldn't come out, just cried into her pillow, her small body shaking with sobs she didn't understand. Mara sat at the kitchen table, her head in her hands. Iris was in her bedroom, too weak to get up, but she'd heard everything. Mara had told her, every word, and now Iris lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, tears sliding silently down her temples. He came back, and I don't know if that makes it better or worse. A knock at the door startled them both. Mara stood, walked to the window, and peered through the curtain. Her jaw tightened. "It's him," she said. Iris closed her eyes. "Let him in. Iris. Let him in, Mara." Mara hesitated. Then, with a heavy sigh, she unlocked the door and pulled it open. Donovan stood on the porch, soaked to the bone, his eyes red and hollow. "I need to see her," he said quietly. "She doesn't want to see you." "I know, but I need to try." Mara stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "Iris is in the back room," she said coldly. "You've got 5 minutes." Donovan nodded and stepped inside. The house smelled like lavender and old wood. There were paintings everywhere, leaning against walls, stacked in corners. Some finished, most not. It was a home filled with love and struggle and creativity that had been silenced too soon. He walked down the narrow hallway, his heart pounding, until he reached the door at the end. It was cracked open. He knocked softly. "Come in." Iris's voice was faint but steady. Donovan pushed the door open and stepped inside. And there she was, Iris, thinner than he remembered, pale, fragile. But her eyes, those fierce, beautiful eyes, were still the same. They looked at each other for a long, breathless moment. "Hi," Donovan whispered. "Hi," Iris replied. He took a tentative step forward, then stopped, unsure if he was allowed any closer. "You look terrible," Iris said. A broken laugh escaped him. "So do you." She smiled faintly. "Cancer will do that." His face crumpled. "Iris, I'm so—" "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't apologize." "Not yet." He nodded, swallowing hard. "You saw her sing," Iris said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah. And she's incredible. She's everything, Iris. Everything I didn't deserve to see." Iris's eyes filled with tears. "She is. I should have been there. From the beginning. I should have." "You should have," Iris interrupted. "But you weren't. And now you are. And I don't know what to do with that." Donovan took another step closer. "I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. I know I destroyed us. But Iris, I can't walk away again. I won't." "She hates you." The words were a knife. "I know," She trusted you. And you lied to her. I was afraid. We were all afraid, Donovan. Iris's voice cracked. You think I wasn't terrified? You think raising her alone, getting sick, wondering how much time I have left. You think that's not terrifying? But I didn't run. I stayed. Because that's what parents do. Donovan's tears fell freely now. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I have no excuse. I was selfish. I was a coward. I thought building something big would make me matter. But I was wrong. The only thing that ever mattered was you. And her. Iris closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Why now? She whispered. Why come back now? Because I heard her sing, Donovan said, his voice breaking. And I realized that I've been dead for 3 years. And she brought me back to life. A little girl I've never known, my daughter, brought me back to life with a song about you. Iris's tears spilled over. I don't know if I can forgive you, she said. I don't expect you to. And I don't know if she ever will either. I know. So what do you want from me, Donovan? He knelt beside the bed, his hands trembling. I want a chance. Just one. To prove I can be the father she deserves. Even if it's only for a few months. Even if she never stops hating me. I need to try. Iris looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the man she'd once loved buried beneath the wreckage of the man he'd become. She's in her room, Iris said quietly. She won't open the door. I know. And if you hurt her again, Donovan, I swear I will spend whatever time I have left making sure you never forget it. I won't. I promise. Iris nodded slowly. Then go. Try. Donovan stood, hesitated, then leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Thank you, he whispered. Iris didn't respond. He left the room and walked down the hallway until he reached Lulu's door. It was painted yellow, with a hand-drawn sign that said, Lulu's room. Knock first. He knocked softly. Silence. Lulu. His voice was barely above a whisper. It's me. It's your dad. Nothing. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you're angry. And you have every right to be. Still nothing. But I need you to know something. His voice cracked. I didn't leave because of you. I left because I was scared. Scared I wouldn't be good enough. Scared I'd fail. And I did. I failed you in the worst way. But I'm here now. And I'm not leaving. Not ever again. He waited. The door didn't open. But he heard something. A soft, muffled sound. She was crying. Donovan pressed his forehead against the door. I love you, Lulu. I've loved you since before you were born. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it, if you'll let me. He stayed there, his hand flat against the door, waiting. Minutes passed. And then, the lock clicked. The door opened. Just a crack. Lulu stood there, her face red and swollen, her eyes full of pain. You promise? She whispered. Donovan's breath hitched. I promise. She stared at him for a long, agonizing moment. Then, slowly, she stepped forward and collapsed into his arms. Donovan sank to his knees, holding her as she sobbed into his shoulder. He wrapped his arms around her, trembling, and whispered over and over, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And for the first time in 7 years, he held his daughter. The weeks that followed were not easy. Forgiveness, Donovan learned, was not a single moment. It was 1,000 small ones, built on consistency, presence, and the quiet courage to keep showing up even when it hurt. Lulu didn't call him Dad right away. She called him Donovan, sometimes Don, and he didn't push. He took what she was willing to give and thanked God for it. He moved out of the motel and rented a small apartment on the edge of Graywood. Close enough to be there when needed, far enough not to intrude. He started showing up. To breakfast, to doctor's appointments, to the small moments that made up a life. He sat with Iris on her good days, when she had the energy to talk. They didn't speak much about the past. There wasn't time for that. Instead, they talked about Lulu, her quirks, her dreams, her stubborn streak that came from both of them. "She gets her voice from you," Donovan said one afternoon, sitting beside Iris's bed. Iris smiled weakly. "She gets her heart from you, even if you didn't know it." He didn't argue. Mara remained cold, but civil. She watched him like a hawk, waiting for him to slip. But slowly, grudgingly, she began to see that he wasn't running. And that softened her, just a little. And Lulu? Lulu was cautious, guarded. She tested him in small ways, asking him to stay for dinner, then watching to see if he'd leave early, inviting him to hear her practice a song, then stopping halfway through to see if he was really listening. He always was. One evening, 3 weeks after the park, Lulu asked him a question. They were sitting on the porch, watching the sun set behind the trees. She was holding her microphone, humming softly. "Donovan, yeah, why did you really come back?" He'd been waiting for this question. He didn't have a perfect answer, but he had an honest one. "I came back because I heard you sing," he said quietly. "And I realized I'd spent 3 years building a life that didn't mean anything. But you, your voice, your heart, you meant everything. And I couldn't stay away anymore." Lulu was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Do you wish you'd stayed from the beginning? Every single day. Would you leave again? If things got hard?" He turned to look at her. "No, never. Promise. I promise." She nodded slowly. Then she leaned her head against his shoulder. It was the first time she'd done that. Donovan closed his eyes and let the moments settle into his bones. 2 months later, Ember Hall announced another community event, a benefit concert to raise funds for families affected by cancer. Ms. Viv Harrow asked Lulu if she'd like to perform again. Lulu said yes, but this time, she wanted to sing something different, something new. She spent weeks working on it with Ms. Harrow, scribbling lyrics in a notebook, changing verses, humming melodies at the kitchen table while Iris listened from her wheelchair. Donovan asked her once what the song was about. She smiled. "You'll see." The night of the benefit concert, Ember Hall was packed again. The same creaky seats, the same flickering lights. But this time, the energy was different. There was a heaviness in the air, a collective understanding that this was about more than talent. It was about love, about loss, about community holding each other up. Donovan sat in the 3rd row this time, not hiding in the back. Beside him sat Iris, wrapped in blankets, her wheelchair positioned at the end of the aisle. Mara sat on her other side, holding her hand. The lights dimmed. Mr. Calloway Finch stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have someone very special closing out tonight's show. She's 7 years old. She's got more heart than most people twice her size. And she's here to remind us all what strength really looks like. Please welcome back to the stage, Lucia Raines." The applause was immediate and thunderous. Lulu walked out in the same yellow dress she'd worn months before. But this time, she wasn't alone. Donovan's breath caught. She was carrying the microphone he'd given her. She stopped at the center of the stage, looked out into the crowd, and found her mother's face. Iris was crying before Lulu even opened her mouth. Then Lulu's eyes shifted and landed on Donovan. She smiled, a small, nervous, but real smile. "Hi," she said into the microphone. Her voice was stronger this time, steadier. "My name's Lulu. Some of you heard me sing here a few months ago. I sang a song for my mom, because she's sick, and I love her." Iris pressed a hand to her mouth, tears streaming. "But tonight," Lulu continued, "I want to sing a song for someone else too." Donovan's heart stopped. "This song is for my dad, The room went silent. He wasn't here for a long time, and that hurt. But he came back, and he's trying really hard. And I think sometimes people make mistakes. Big ones. But maybe, if they're really sorry, and if they don't give up, maybe they get a second chance. Donovan's vision blurred with tears. Lulu took a breath, and she began to sing. The melody was soft at first, gentle, like a lullaby. But it grew. It built. And the lyrics, God, the lyrics. I used to wonder where you were. I used to wonder if you cared. I used to sing into the dark and wish that you were there. Donovan's chest heaved. But now you're here, and now I see. That love's not perfect, love's not easy. It stumbles, falls, it breaks apart, but it can heal a broken heart. Iris was sobbing. Mara wiped her eyes. The entire room was motionless. So here's my song. I sing it true. For Mommy. And for Daddy too. You taught me love's not black and white. It's messy, hard, but worth the fight. Lulu's voice soared on the final chorus. I'm still here. I'm still listening. And maybe love's just beginning. When the last note faded, the silence held for a heartbeat. Then the room erupted. People stood, clapping, crying, shouting. But Donovan didn't move. He just stared at his daughter, his brave, beautiful, impossibly forgiving daughter, and let the tears fall. Lulu stepped off the stage and walked straight toward him. The crowd parted. She stopped in front of him, still holding the microphone. Did you like it? She asked quietly. Donovan couldn't speak. He nodded. I wrote it for you, she whispered. Because I think I'm ready. Ready for what? She looked up at him, her eyes shining. Ready to call you Dad. Donovan broke. He dropped to his knees and pulled her into his arms, holding her like he should have 7 years ago. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held him just as tight. I love you, Lulu, he whispered. I love you so much. I love you too, Daddy. Behind them, Iris watched through her tears, Mara's hand squeezing hers. And in that moment, broken things began to mend. 3 months later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Iris passed away in her sleep. Lulu sang at her funeral, a song about stars and love, and never really saying goodbye. Donovan stood beside her the entire time. And when it was over, when the guests had left and the flowers had wilted, Lulu took Donovan's hand and said, We're going to be okay, right? Donovan looked down at her. This little girl who had taught him what love actually meant. Yeah, he whispered. We're going to be okay. And they were. 1 year later, Lulu stood on a much bigger stage this time. A regional talent competition in Seattle. The lights were brighter. The crowd was larger. But in the front row sat the same man who had heard her sing in a small-town community center and had his life changed forever. Donovan Raines, her father. When the host called her name, she stepped into the light, holding her microphone, the one he'd given her. She looked out at the audience, took a breath, and smiled. This song, she said, is for everyone who ever got a second chance. And she sang. Have you ever been given a second chance you didn't deserve? Or given one to someone else? Sometimes the hardest act of love is letting someone try again. Tell us your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it.